Hey everybody, Steve Billman here. Thanks for joining me. Hey, today we're going to continue our video series called Harmony for Songwriters. And I just want to encourage you guys, if you haven't seen the first two videos, I would encourage you to go back and to watch those because it's going to have important information that you're going to need for this third video. All right, so in that second video, we talked about boxes or categories, and we had 3 of them. And we titled those boxes or categories the tonic chord family, the subdominant chord family, and the dominant chord family. From the first video, we took the harmonization that we did of the major scale. In this case, it was G major, and we're going to continue in G major. Each one of those chords that was harmonized in G major, we took those chords and we fit them into the proper box. And we found that there were 3 chords in the tonic chord family: G major, or the 1 chord, B minor, or the 3 chord, and E minor, the 6 chord. And we found that there were 2 in the subdominant family: A minor, or the 2 chord, 2 minor, and then C major, the 4 major chord. And then we found in the dominant chord family that we had 2 as well: the 5 chord, D major, and the 7th chord, F sharp diminished. So there were 3 chords in the first category, the tonic chord family, 2 in the subdominant chord family, and 2 in the dominant chord family. So that's sort of a summation of the second video. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take those categories, and I'm actually going to write a progression based off of those 3 boxes. Now, just saying this, guys, I'm not saying you have to write progressions this way. I don't even know if it's the best way to write them. But the reason I'm doing it is just to show you sort of an example of how harmony can work. You know, you start out at maybe at a place of rest, you go to a place of motion, and then you go to a box that's tense, and then that tension wants to resolve you back to the tonic, to the rest again. Remember, the tonic family brings rest. The subdominant family gives you sort of this motion. You're going somewhere. The dominant family gives you tension. And then again, that tension wants to resolve back to the tonic chord family. So I'm going to create my progression based on that. But again, this is not the only way or even the best way to create a chord progression. I'm just doing it as an example to show you. Okay? All right. So again, we're in the key of G. All these videos will be from the key of G. So my 1 chord is going to be G, right? So from the tonic chord family in my first chord, I'm going to choose a G chord, okay? Then from the subdominant family, I'm going to choose the 4 chord, or the C major chord in this case. Then from the dominant chord family, I'm going to choose the 5 chord, or in G major, it's a D. And then this is going to resolve me back to the tonic, so I'll go back simply to the 1 chord. All right? So there are 4 chords. I'm going to make it a 4-bar phrase, meaning 4 measures. So each chord will be a measure, okay? And I'm going to play that for you, and then we're going to expand on it a little bit. All right? So again, I took the G chord from the tonic chord family. I took the C chord from the subdominant chord family. I took the D chord from the dominant chord family, and that resolves me back to a G chord, the 1 chord. So here we go. I'll play it for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4. Okay, again, G chord, the 1 chord, C chord, the 4 chord, D chord, the 5 chord, and then back to the 1 chord. Now, I'm writing this progression thinking in terms of a song. So, you know, I'm probably thinking of writing a verse. So most verses aren't 4 measures. That's a little bit short. Most verses, I would say, at least 8 measures. Some are longer, some are shorter, but 8 is probably an average. So what I'm going to do now is, since that's a 4-bar phrase, it's only 4 measures. For right now, I'm just going to double that same 4-bar phrase. So 4 plus 4 is going to give me 8 bars, okay? And so now it's going to be like a verse. It'll be a 8-bar, not a phrase, but it'll be an 8-bar, 8 measures of chords, okay? So here we go. I'll take you through it. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, C, second bar, D, third bar, G, fourth bar. Now I'm going to repeat that. G, fifth bar, C, sixth bar, D, seventh bar, G, eighth bar. Now, it's a perfectly fine progression. There's a lot of songs that have been written with 3 or 4 chords, and they're good songs. So you certainly can use that progression, okay? The one thing, though, the disadvantage with shorter phrases, remember, this is only, even though it's 8 bars, it's only a 4-bar phrase because it's the same progression we're doing on the 5th bar. So the thing about shorter phrasing is that it feels more boxed in, it feels tighter, and it feels more repetitive. Now, that, again, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it could be. So one of the options we have is to open it up to make that 8 bars then not repeated, but make the progression go somewhere else on the last 4 bars. Okay, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that using the chord family boxes. So I'm going to keep the first 4 measures. All right, so the first 4 measures will be exactly the same: G, C, D, and then back to G. So that takes care of my first 4 measures. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to substitute the last 4 measures. I'm going to substitute those repeated chords, the same chords. I'm going to substitute those with the chords in each one of the chord families. So again, there are 3 chords in the tonic chord family. So there are 2 chords I could substitute for that first chord. There's another chord in the subdominant chord family from the chord I picked, and the same with the dominant chord family. So I'm going to substitute in each one of those families, I'm going to substitute one chord for another. I'll show you what I mean. So here's the progression: G, I'm keeping the first 4 bars, C, D, then G. Now, we're going to go back to the 5th measure now. What are the chords in the key of G major? What are the other 2 chords that you can substitute in the tonic chord family? Because that's where the G chord is in the tonic chord family. Well, it's either the 3 chord, B minor, or the 6 chord, E minor. Well, you have a choice. There's neither right nor wrong, but I'm going to choose the 6 chord. So instead of after the D chord, and I go back to the G chord on the 4th bar, then I'm going to choose on the 5th bar, I'm going to choose E minor instead of G. So that E minor will be the first chord on the 5th bar, or it'll be the chord on the 5th bar. That's the 6 chord substituting for that 1 chord. Remember, they're in the same family, so you can do that. Okay, so again, the last 4 bars, instead of playing G, C, D, and then back to G, my first substitution is instead of that G chord, I'm going to play E minor. And then on the 2nd chord, which would be C major in the original, right? If I look at the subdominant chord box, the 2 chord can be substituted for the 4 chord. So the 2 chord in the key of G major is A minor. Okay, so instead of playing C on that 6th measure, I'm going to play A minor. All right, so I have E minor, and then I have A minor, and then instead of D, I'm going to play that F sharp diminished chord, because that's in the dominant chord family, and the other chord in that family besides the D chord is the F sharp diminished chord. And then after that, after the 7th bar, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to resolve back to the 1 chord, to the G chord. So that last chord I'll keep as a G chord, the 8th bar. All right. So if I do it in terms of the last 4 measures, right? I have E minor, then I have A minor, and actually I'm playing E minor 7 there, sorry. And then I'm going to go to F sharp diminished, and then I'm going to go to a G chord. Okay? So the progression then I have now is an 8-bar phrase, because the chords in the last 4 measures are different. So what happens is that 8-bar phrase opens it up, and it's less repetitive, and it makes the space sound a little bit bigger. Now, do I always have to do this? Of course not. The repeated 4 bars is fine. You can always, you can do anything you want to do. and anything can work. But there will be times where you'll come across that progression. You'll just kind of go, yeah, it's good, but it needs something. It's too repetitive. Well, this is a way you can open it up by using chord substitutions from the chord families, right? And what we call this, you guys, is diatonic chord substitutions. And why they're called diatonic is because each one of these chords that I'm playing diatonically fits into the key of G major. All of the notes of every chord represents the key of G major, okay? So that's why we call it diatonic. We're going to get into non-diatonic chord substitutions, but that's something different. This is diatonic. Everything is coming from the key of G major. And remember, G major, everything's natural but one note, and that's the F sharp. All right, so let me try to play the progression. That F sharp diminished is a little weird for me, but let me play the progression for you. I'll play a little slower. So now this is the 8-bar progression. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and... Now here comes the substitution. 6 minor, 2 minor, 7, and then 1. I'll do it again. 6, 2, 7. Okay, so you can see that by just using those diatonic boxes, or I should say the chord family boxes, those diatonic chords, you can substitute within the families, right? So you're not going to substitute, the F sharp diminished for the G major chord, because the G major chord is in the tonic chord family, and the F sharp diminished chord is in the dominant chord family. So it has to be within the realm of the chord family. But you can see how it completely changes your progression. And you can mix and match that. You can maybe take the E minor chord, and instead of going to A minor, keep the C, and then keep the D. I mean, you could just do one of the chords if you wanted. You could just substitute that G major chord or the E minor chord for the G major chord. It's all up to you. So there's no formula. That's where the creativity comes in. This is just a tool for you to use. Remember, we're adding stuff on our tool belts as writers. So this is just a tool for you to use to sort of enhance your progression. All right. So again, I hope that made sense, you guys. Thanks so much for joining me and spending the time with me. I hope this helped, and I will see you guys on the next video. All right. Take care.